Hi, my name is Vera and I teach English online to students from all over the world. I have lived in 4 countries and now I make videos about intercultural communication. And today I wanted to talk about the concept of confidence versus humility or humbleness. This video is inspired by a culture clash, I guess, that I experienced when I moved from Spain to South Korea. Now, for a little context, I was born in Russia, then I moved to the UK, then I moved to Spain, then I moved to South Korea. And I was teaching English in Spain and South Korea offline. So, in Spain, where I had been teaching for about 5 years, I got used to the fact that people were very interactive, very outgoing. If I asked a class a question, then somebody would respond. The problem usually would be that too many people would respond, and I would have to make sure that everyone got a chance to speak and they weren't just speaking over each other. I taught children, teenagers, and adults, but I'll exclude children from this whole conversation just because children are kind of similar everywhere. They just want to play and have fun. They're not really affected by their culture, but teenagers and adults are. So that was the situation in Spain. And when I moved to South Korea, in my first class, what happened was I was explaining something, telling them about myself, telling them about the topic. And then I asked them my first question, something very easy. I don't remember what it was, but I kind of asked the crowd, what do you guys think? Does anybody want to share their point of view? And I was just met with their blank, neutral faces watching me. Like they were watching me and they were kind of nodding along to what I was saying. So I knew they were paying attention. But then when I asked them this question, their faces didn't change at all and nobody raised their hands and there was this really awkward silence. And I was just really confused, very stressed, of course, but I just didn't understand what was happening. I thought maybe they don't understand me. This is a different language for them after all. And I tried a simpler question, but nothing happened. And I thought maybe they just don't like me or they don't like this thing that I'm talking about. Maybe it's really, really boring. But it would be very strange for all of them to hate me out of nowhere. And then I thought, oh yeah, maybe they're shy, but to me, it didn't make sense. Like they came to an English academy to practice English, and I was giving them an opportunity to speak. And this was their chance. This is what they're here for, right? To practice. But they just didn't want to. And I couldn't figure out why. And then little by little, I understood that if in Spain you're expected to be confident, your confidence is rewarded in a way. Like in a lot of European countries, I think. In Asian countries, being humble, being humble is maybe more important. And if you're going to be the first one to put up your hand and say, I know the answer, or I have something to share, in a way, it could be interpreted as if you think you're better than everybody else. You know, you think you should be the first one to interact. You're not afraid. You don't feel uncomfortable. You're kind of sticking out. And to me, over time, as I was there in general, I tried to understand whenever I encountered something different to what I was used to, instead of just thinking, oh, they're just weird, or oh, this is just so incredibly different. It's like a different world. Sometimes it did feel like a different world, like another planet, but very often, always, actually, after some time, the more I thought about this thing that was so different, I could find a way to relate to it, like the situation in the classroom. Okay, in the classroom, you're kind of expected to speak to the teacher, but if you imagine a huge audience of hundreds of people with one speaker on stage, and if that speaker asked the audience a question, how comfortable would you be being the first one to put up your hand and be like, yeah, I want to share. Listen to me, everyone, all you hundreds around here. I would feel incredibly uncomfortable. And it's that kind of feeling You're in a classroom, so it's a much smaller scale, but the feeling is like this. It's just amplified. It's amplified. Now, what's the point? What's my point? My first piece of advice is if you're in a situation that's similar to mine, if you're moving from Europe to South Korea and you're either a teacher or you have to do some sort of public speaking where you want to interact with your audience, just be prepared that they might not answer you straight away. Another interesting thing that I learned when I read the culture map is that in some Asian countries, the speaker is expected to read the air or read the room and sort of pay very careful attention to people's faces. So maybe they aren't putting up their hands, but they're making extra strong eye contact, or they look really excited as if they want to say something. And the speaker is supposed to distinguish these people and give them an opportunity to speak. So, if you're moving from Europe to South Korea or Japan and you're a speaker, try reading the air, try to see who looks the most interested in what you're saying and ask them individually, or learn people's names. If you address somebody by their name, they're more likely to respond. And maybe start with very simple questions like yes or no, so they can give you like a little nod or a little shake. That's the beginning of your interaction. And another piece of advice from the opposite point of view, if you're moving from Asia to Europe and you're not the speaker, but you're somebody in the audience, maybe you're working, you're an employee, you got a job at a European company, and you're at an office meeting and your team leader is telling you something, and then at the end the team leader says, does anyone have any questions? And if you have a question and you're uncomfortable because you are and you're waiting for the speaker to read the room and to see that you want to say something but you're shy, nothing might happen. They might not understand that you want to say something. They might just listen or see that nobody's responding, and they might just take it as nobody has any questions, and then they'll leave the room. And then what are you going to do? Run after them or send them a follow-up email and say, well, actually, I did have a question. I just was too uncomfortable in the meeting. That could create some tension because the speaker had a special time and a place for questions, and you're kind of wasting their time. Like, you could have asked them your question sooner. So you're going to have to learn how to speak up, how to put up your hand or say something when the speaker addresses a crowd or a group of people. It's very uncomfortable, I know, but the sooner you get used to it, the better, because in most European countries, you're expected to be confident. If you're insecure or uncomfortable, that's not a good enough excuse to not say anything if you have something important to say. So, best of luck. I know it can be uncomfortable switching countries and changing your whole way of behaving or communicating, but that's what I'm here to try and help you with. And please let me know if you think I got something wrong, or if you're from a different country that I have not mentioned and you have a different perspective on all of this. I would love to know. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.